Anybody there?
Is there anybody there? Yes, we're all still here, in Kansas, in London, in Leeds, and in all the other city regions of the world. But that film presupposed that one day soon we might not still be here, or if we were, that we wouldn't be all that lucky to be alive. In a moment after the break, we'll be discussing that film with Michael Heseltine, the Defense Secretary, with CND and others, including a studio audience, not all that different, perhaps, from those fictional citizens of Lawrence near Kansas City. If you were affected by that film, join us after the break.
The new intercity sleeper, a businessman's dream. Luxurious air-conditioned room, comfortable bed, personal temperature control, room service, not to mention a new sound insulation and suspension system that's so advanced.
Your tonic water, sir?
When are we off?
We are off, sir.
You'd hardly know you're moving. So be our guest next time you have business in Scotland, and you too will be convinced this is the age of the train.
So the cold Hofmeister is sliding down like a dream, when this girl comes up and asks me what I do. So I tell her I'm a dispensing chemist, which really impresses her for a bear. And I'll read her prescription anytime. Sometimes I think the medical profession is misunderstood. I prescribe Hofmeister twice nightly.
For great lager, follow the bear.
Philips bring you pictures from a silver disc. Highest quality pictures and sound on laser vision. The disc is read by a laser. Nothing touches it. Even constant use won't affect the quality. With disc prices from £11.99, there are hundreds of hours of entertaining home viewing. Be frightened a little further. Laugh a little longer. Rock a little harder with a Philips laser vision player. Prices from £299, including 3 free discs. To find your local dealer, phone Freephone 2151.
Round and yellow, warm and mellow warnings. Make it bitter, make it sharp warnings. You want to drink it tall, make it dry, nice and light. Take your warnings how you like. Taste around it will astound. Advocate from warnings.
Mix it with warnings.
Hello, my name is Ralph Cohen, Managing Director of Philips Major Appliances here in Halifax. We believe in giving you the machines you want. Easy to use, well-made, reliable, energy-saving machines, like these. Machines of this caliber deserve an outstanding washing powder. New System Personal Automatic is so good on today's wash, it's the only powder that we recommend, and the only packet we put in our machines.
Who's that? Who's that? And who's that? It could be you in this beautiful pastel mink jacket. Down £500 to only £695. Edelson at Selfridges. Ask about interest-free credit.
Everything you wear says something about the kind of woman you are. That's why the perfume you choose is Tweed. Tweed by Lonthric, the finishing touch.
We have here in a studio in Leeds a selected audience, some of whose views we know and some of whose we don't know. The latter being perhaps counterparts in Britain of those citizens of the town near Kansas City whose terrible fictional experience we've just been watching in that film the day after. The purpose of our discussion tonight, I hope, is to try to move thoughtfully towards some certainty that that terrible experience in the film will always remain fictional for everyone. In a studio in London, we have Mr. Michael Heseltine, the Secretary of State for Defence, also Mr. Dennis Healey, a former Labour Secretary of State for Defence, and Dr. David Owen, leader of the Social Democratic Party and former Foreign Secretary.
We'll also be talking to other experts and officials on both sides of the Atlantic, including Joan Ruddock from CND and the former American Secretary of Defence, Robert McNamara. But to begin, the present British Defence Secretary.
Secretary of State, you've criticised this film as carrying a message of ultimate failure. But its message is not that. It's a message that there could be ultimate failure of the deterrent to deter. Surely it's not sadly unbalanced, as you've called it, to suggest that.
Well, obviously, the events it depicts are deeply shocking, and it has a horrifying impact on one. And I think the chilling words at the end, "Is there nobody there?" leave a sort of impact of hopelessness. But the fact is that we're all there. And after decades, when the former ministers and myself who are on this program have had to live with these horrifying decisions, we have actually kept the peace in Western Europe for an unprecedented period in contemporary history.
But the point the film is making is that might not continue to be so in the future. It just says it might not.
Yes, I know that.
Well, are you saying that's
But
unreasonable?
What I find disturbing about the film, in addition, of course, to the horrific portrayal of the events that I willingly accept, is that it rewrites history. And time and again...
In what way? It's about the future.
If I can give you some examples, which I think your audience and the wider viewing audience will remember. We went through the tensions of Berlin. We had the statement in the film about it's just like the Cuba Missile Crisis all over again. We had the riots in East Germany. It didn't mention riots in Central Europe, but all of these things we've lived through in a nuclear age. And the chilling thing about the power of nuclear weapons is that there's no secret about it. Everybody knows about the scale of horrendous potential damage in those weapons. But precisely because we all do know, we have actually lived at peace, because everybody understands, both in the Soviet Union and in the NATO alliance, that there could never be a winner in any war of that sort.
Exactly. That's why it's so appalling to think that there might be such a war. Can you really say you have the unshakable conviction that the deterrent will always continue to deter as it's deterred, as you've just said, for the last 40 years?
I believe that that is the case. And I think that it is precisely because we all know of the horrendous capabilities that your film has shown that that deterrent will work. Because nobody who's in a position to have any influence at all, and I say this of those who run the Soviet Union just as much as those who run the NATO alliance, nobody could countenance the use of those weapons. And so whenever the sort of examples that the films shows to indicate how it could happen confront us, actually sanity has prevailed. And that is the message that is missing from this film.
The message that we've had sanity so far, but can you honestly, looking at human history, guarantee that sane, reasonable people will continue to handle this weapon in the future? Are there not real risks involved?
But
will it never fail, or might it never fail?
Looking at history, nobody has ever had weapons of this sort before. We've certainly had horror capability before. I mean, many of us lived through the first films of the appalling consequences of Belsen. We know that 20 million people died in the Soviet Union in the last war. We remember the saturation bombing. We've seen horror before, but we've never had within human capability the absolute horror situation of nuclear power.
But surely, therefore, all the more reason to consider that it might be
This is the difference
us.
that has actually brought about this capacity of the two sides, if you like, Warsaw Pact, Soviet Union on the one hand, NATO on the other, whenever faced with the very dangerous situations that in another generation could have escalated to war, has actually produced a situation where people have backed off. And I believe that it is absolutely critical that we remember that, because the fear that I have, if we don't, is that we will change the defence policies that actually have kept that peace.
Mr. Heseltine, may I put this to you?
Certainly.
All that film was doing, at the most, was to question the success of our defence policies. You are implying almost that we have no right to question the defence policies of today.
Well, I don't think that that's compatible with the advice that I gave, that I thought people should watch this film. Because, you see, I think that that film actually is the most powerful argument for our defence policies.
And are you glad it was made?
Well, I believe in the widest possible debate in a democracy. I can't help but contrast the fact that that film will never be seen behind the Iron Curtain. The Soviet Union won't let their people see that film.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid I can't help contrasting your interview with us, for which I thank you very much, with the fact that you, in fact, would not take part in the subsequent debate.
Well, can I just answer that point? Because that is a very important point. I think that that film has a message of propaganda. And I think it is critically important, therefore, that I should have the chance to answer it. And I do not believe that I would be doing that adequately if I was set in a context where I was being balanced within itself. I wanted, and I believe rightly, to balance the film.
But I must just repeat the point. It is surely very authoritarian to suggest that it is propaganda if one questions defence policy and suggests that the present defence policy might not succeed.
I don't believe it is authoritarian. When I was faced with the decision that you put to me, do I think people should watch the film, I said I thought they should.